shall be limited to the issue and cannot involve individuals or staff-related matters. All cell phones and electronic devices used for communication should be silenced for the duration of the meeting. And I'd like to call the meeting of the Terrebonne Parish Council of Wednesday, December 8th, 2024 to order. We'll have the invocation and pledge of allegiance by Councilman Clyde Hamner. Turn your mic on, Clyde.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Heavenly Father, we ask that you bless all gathered here this evening and guide our thoughts, words, and actions in the best interest of the entire Terrebonne Parish community. Father, please bring joy and happiness to all this Christmas season, and may everyone be safe, secure, and any other blessings you want to bestow upon us, dear Lord. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of
the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Smith, may we have a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Hamner, Mr. Babin, Ms. Chauvin, Mr. Trusclair, Mr. Pleasure, Mr. Harding, Mr. Voisin, Mr. Amity,
Here.
Mr. Champagne. Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum present.
Thank you, ma'am. Approve the minutes of the regular council session held on November 20th, 2024. Moved by Mr. Harding. Second by Mr. Trosclair. Members, vote your machines. 9 yeas, 0 nays. Distribute the minutes of the regular council session held on December 11th, 2024 has been done. Approve the accounts payable list, the accounts payable bill list for 12/16/2024. Moved by Mr. Pleasure, second by Mr. Trosclair, or was that? Members, vote your machines. 9 yeas, 0 nays. Approve the manual check listing November 2024. Move Mr. Pleasure. Second Mr. Trosclair. Members, vote your machines. 9 yeas, 0 nays. Item 1, general business. A presentation by the American Red Cross regarding updated status with Terrebonne Parish. We have someone here to do that? Mr. Navy. I would also like to welcome two people that are here tonight, Mr. John Navy being one of them, who is a former council member who's done a lot for his community over the years. And then our next presentation is going to be State Representative Jessica Domingue, who also started out here on the council. But Mr. Navy, welcome, sir.
Thank you. Not necessarily a presentation, but more of a thank you for the support and the collaboration we did during the Hurricane Francine. Also, it's a pleasure to speak in front of my former teacher, Mr. Hamner.
very few people in here I didn't.
Who gave me a very difficult time, okay?
Yeah, I'm real proud of the fact that
I want to make, I'm being transparent right now, okay? Definitely. I don't forget about it also, okay?
You know, Mr. Navy, I'm going to go there too because, you know, I know there's Grambling guy right here staring at that jacket.
Yeah.
I will grab it.
Jaguar, you're right.
Well, being that we're there, I was with Judge.
Turn your mic on, Carly.
I was with Judge Arsenault and with the event yesterday, and he had Judge Marcel, and both attended South Terrebonne. And they talk about the Gators accolades. I said, well, I went to Terrebonne, and when I went to Terrebonne, they had a ban on killing gators. So that's why they were successful.
Well, no offense, but anyway, none taken. Thank you all, definitely. Give me this opportunity to be on this side of the podium talking. After Hurricane Ida, you know, we had a lot of difficult times during that disaster, and the recovery process was very difficult for a lot of us. You know, Mr. Babin, you can know that we had some hard times. You know, all of us up here were probably crying, and Steve, you know that too. We had a difficult time to call. You know, Ms. Amadi, that was difficult for a lot of us, to be honest with you. But now that I'm with American Red Cross, I felt like it gave me the opportunity to be on the other side of that fence to do more for our community. One of the things that we do understand after disaster, there's three elements that kind of impede and impact our community. That's around health, hunger, and housing. Our program now with the Red Cross, we call it the Community Adaptation Program, is a universal program throughout the whole country now about community engagement, going into communities to address those issues to how to mitigate, food insecurity, how to mitigate disaster displacement by assisting with some housing resources, and how to mitigate the assets, mental health, and health services. So our program designed to do that to work with nonprofit agencies. I'm gonna talk about those nonprofit agencies in a few minutes, but before I do that, I want to thank this administration for the support they gave us. All you council members, y'all did a wonderful job reaching out to me. Man, every time I look at Mr. Varzan, it's like looking at your daddy, man. It's like, wow. It's like, yeah, it's like a twin. But I would like to definitely thank you all for the support you gave me. All you council members had some things that you wanted to address. Definitely, I addressed those things. Holly, thank you for volunteering to assist what you did with the feeding. Mr. Babin, thank you for what you did, too, with the resource that you provided the community that you and I talked about. And I want to thank Jason Vacheron, definitely, the parish president, for being able to get the parish up and running in a nice designed fashion. So thank you for that. But I will say this, your administration team played a very vital role with Red Cross. I'm going to start off with Chris Pulaski. We had to do a housing assessment to see the resources that we actually have here and the infrastructure that was destroyed. Your parish administration with the planning department did their own assessment with major, minor, whatever housing damage. That was very instrumental for Red Cross. Why? Because a lot of times people from Red Cross come in outside when they're dealing with a disaster from other areas, not necessarily Louisiana. I work for national headquarters right now, but at the end of the day, what he provided to us helped them a lot to be able to really get us on the ground, to be able to offer some assistance to some people. So your team, I don't know what you're paying them, but they're definitely amazing, definitely. Kelly Cunningham is another one I want to thank because we had some issue with the sheltering for showering. She made some contacts, some phone calls like that. It happened. So there's a lot of people that played a major role. I'm sorry. Played a major role. I thought somebody talking to me. Yes, I'm sorry. Played a major role in the recovery process. And I had the opportunity to touch base with a lot of you council members. Okay. I'll pause. Get the floor. I relinquish my light. The language, okay. But I thank you all because at the end of the day, a lot of these council members really reached out and had some, major. Ms. Chauvin definitely too. You and I went to school together too, by the way. Was she your teacher too? No. No. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I got that C from him too. I mean, so again, the work that you all provided is very instrumental to Terrebonne Parish, definitely. And it's great to be on this side to tell you all thank you, the collaboration that we're building now with Terrebonne Parish. I'll be honest with you, in the past, that relationship was not good between Terrebonne Parish and American Red Cross. And I said it was not good, the present. A lot of time when you see Red Cross, it's after disaster. This new modernized green sky, not blue skies and gray skies. So not just there after disaster, post, pre now, we ought to be here. We're going to be moving to Lafourche Parish in January, start doing some work with them. I talked to the parish president, Arthur Shashan, out there, so I'll be meeting with him and his team out there to kind of do the same thing we did in Terrebonne Parish, and from state to state, parish to parish to parish. That's the new model that we're using in Louisiana. But again, my situation here to thank you all, thank you. It was not a issue of politics. It was you all working together. And Red Cross is not here to tell you what to do. We're here, when I say community engagement, we're going to ask you, council members and the community, what are your needs? We're not going into these communities always like we already done in the past and make assumptions. We have to make an assessment with the needs of those communities and the vulnerability of those communities and how that look, or who being marginalized in those communities and how we can address and help those communities. And you all know that in every area of the parish, there are people that exist like that, unfortunately. Let's go back to some of the people that we're serving. The Lowlander Center, and Danny came to that presentation that they made with the TV station came out. A lot of TV stations came out. What we did with them, Chief Parfait reached out to me and they had a center that was destroyed during Ida. And she was doing the work, but the work was not complete. She came to talk to me. I reached out to national headquarters to say, hey, this could be a perfect resiliency center where we could have resources there after disaster and pre, disaster, giving resources out to the community, help with feeding, et cetera, housing resources, help with FEMA application, et cetera. A resiliency hub. We gave them a lot of support with grant funding to be able to make that thing happen for them, to have access for people down the bayou communities to have access to some kind of resources during a disaster. You all know after disaster, a lot of these people in the bayou community get cut off. And this way, if you have resources that tie to them or link to them to support them, they're able to recover it fast. They can absolutely recover faster. So that's one of the people that we did some support with. Star Corporation was another one. So Star Corporation deal with the health aspect as far as mental health. So they actually have a center that was not completed. We assist Casey with some resources to help him to get that emergency mental health facility up. And it came to play a vital role for Francine. We didn't know a disaster was going to happen. Me and Sheriff Tim Sonnier always talked about this. He kept saying, knock on wood, but it happened. It happened. Going back to another supporter, Touch Action Clinic, we provide them with a mobile unit where they can have access to go down to Bayou now and provide health and mental health services. Bayou Community Foundation has a wonderful program with the Amish group, the Mennonites who actually do the recovery process of housing rebuilding. We support them what we call House in a Box. Through St. Vincent de Paul, we have a contract with them who have a contract with Amazon. So what House in a Box is, we're able to supply furniture, appliance, and utensils for those impacted people that were displaced, returning back home safely. You can build a structure, but if you don't have anything inside, it doesn't feel like home. So that's the things that we have supported and done. It's just a few. I can't stand up here and say a whole bunch because Jessica coming behind me, okay? But definitely, I just want to thank you all and this administration for the wonderful job that you have done. And I would like to continue this relationship in the near future because we know it's not when, it's going to happen. We're going to have another disaster. I want to thank the sheriff too because what the Sheriff Sonia did too was amazing. Being able to help clear the roads off and get people back here to be back home that actually, live with displaced, some are displaced or evacuated, they return home safely. But again, it was just amazing. I just felt very well about and very received being at those tables and talking to all of you all and getting that support again. And it wasn't even about politics. It's about people and the recovery process of what we need to do to help people. So that's the nutshell. That's my song and dance for the day. I'm not going to dance or anything like that, but anyway. But Mr. Hammer, thank you for that C in conduct, okay?
I can remember I was getting observed one day by Warren Saban and Dr. Claymont from Nichols, and you were in that class, and you said you're not going to dance tonight, but you got up in the middle of that observation and you danced from the back of the room all the way up to the pencil sharpener, wiggling your little butt. It was little back then. And then you sharpen that pencil while you're doing your little dance, and then you dance all the way back, and I'm going, like this. And at the end of the observation, they say they told me how well I handled discipline and I forgot exactly how they said it. But I remember that like it was yesterday. I bet you don't remember that.
I remember that. I did that purposely, by the way. I remember it. Yes,
he sat down, and with that John Navy smile, he sat down and he looked at his pencil and he smiled just like that.
Yep.
Just like that.
Yep.
From
Yep.
ear to ear.
And that's why I got that C. I understand. Understand.
Mr. Babin?
Yeah, John, I want to thank you. The Red Cross for all these years, everybody looked at it as being reactive to something, okay? The new regime, if you will, is much more proactive, okay? Right. And thank you for pointing out some of the things that took place. I worked very closely with BCF a lot, okay? Yeah. And people in this community don't know how much they've done.
Yeah.
But again, I want to thank the Red Cross, but you also for being so proactive in all of this rather than just reactive, because we are going to have things that are going to continue to come up. Right. So we need to be ready, boots on the ground, whenever it happens. And I think Red Cross is definitely doing that now. So thank you.
Appreciate that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ms. Chauvin?
Yes, I just wanted to thank you for the help that you gave that family of 6 because I know they were in crisis mode after Hurricane Francine, and someone told me, to give you a call, and you jumped right in there and gave them help. So I don't know that family personally, but I know that they appreciated that in their time of need. So thank you, and I look forward to working with you and developing that relationship to be able to help others.
I will add that not only you called about that family, but the sheriff did too. And he
Yes.
told me, he said, you better make sure you help Kim Chauvin. I said, okay, whatever. No problem, Sheriff.
Thank you. I
No problem.
appreciate it.
No
Thank
problem.
you, Ms. Chauvin. President Bergeron?
Yeah, I just want to commend Mr. Navy and his team. With us being able to have a smooth recovery back, quick recovery back, it definitely was that team stepping up and filling gaps and helping us where we needed help. So just want to commend and appreciate the relationship of us working together and moving forward together. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bergeron. Mr. Wazan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Navy, for your decades of service to Terrebonne Parish and everything you do now with the Red Cross. And just to point out one thing, the way y'all was providing food in District 3, particularly in the Broadmoor area. Hats off to y'all. Just an awesome job. Thank you so much.
Man, you look and sound just like your daddy, man. I'm looking at you like, wow, okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Wazan. And John, I think, we've had Red Cross in the room, but I think you made a big difference by representing them in the room. Because I think with your knowledge of the local area and all the things from all the previous storms, you had a vision of how they should really do things. And I want to commend you for that. I think it was your presence in the room. I know seeing you at OEP and stuff, there was a different feel for Red Cross. And I think you brought them by representing them to the next level. And that really, I think it really paid off.
And Mr. Amadi, to be honest with you, I agree with that aspect of it, but I'm going to twist it a little bit to say it would never have been successful if it wasn't for you all, to be honest with you. Because
Well, we have to work together. But
Exactly.
But I think, your leadership, whereas Red Cross, my dealings with them before, they were kind of robotic.
Absolutely.
And you brought a different presence. That's what I'm saying.
And the EOC Center, I'll be honest with you, Earl Hughes is just truly amazing. I'll be
Yeah.
honest with you. Yeah,
Yeah.
the services that he provides and the knowledge that he have is unprecedented. I mean, you won't ever get that anyway. Parish President Bergeron, please don't lose him. That's going to be detrimental for Terrebonne Parish, to be honest with you. But he's amazing. He was a great help, educated me again about a lot of things after disaster. And again, Earl would tell me what to do. I like that part of it again. So it was amazing. It really was amazing. So, but I appreciate y'all and thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mr. Navy. Item B, presentation by State Representative Jessica Domingue regarding the tax reform package that was just passed by the legislature.
Thank you, and it's really amazing to go after my colleague, Mr. Navy. My last time in this chamber, I was actually chairing the last meeting of the year, and so it's been an incredible 2024, and I thank you guys for being here. When I decided to run for the state legislature, I knew that I wanted to make a difference in our state, and not one of us, I think, wants to see things continue to go in the trajectory that we're going, because we all know that we're going in the wrong direction. However, no one told me that the governor would have us in session for almost the entire year. So it's been an incredible 2024. I had some personal issues I had to deal with. I was actually diagnosed with cancer this year, and I appreciate everyone who reached out and send well wishes and cards and flowers. I am cancer free, and so it just goes to show what life throws at you. But we're all here to serve whether it's the parish or the state, our constituents, we're all here for the same reason. So this is actually my third time doing this presentation in about 24 hours. And earlier today, I did it at a meeting, and we went through each section, each bill, and then we opened it up to questions. And although I tend to like to be the boss, Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure how you feel about questions on each one. That way, it kind of keeps it clean. If you're okay with that, it makes it easier for us to
So you want to take them one
take them one at a time, and that's
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. And if you see the PowerPoint presentation, it's the way the PowerPoint kind of lays it out, and so we could go through each one. I will apologize. I'm no longer with this wonderful parish. I'm with the state of Louisiana. Our technology is not quite as great, and so when this was emailed over to me, I couldn't get it formatted into PowerPoint. So Ms. Tammy will just have to scroll through. But I can have it available to you guys if you want it. So Ms. Tammy, if you want to maybe possibly go down. Thank you so much. So this is just talking about the special session. It was our third special session. As I said earlier, this was probably unprecedented, the amount of time that we were in Baton Rouge. However, this third session on tax reform was probably the most intense 3 weeks. It just went away. There we go. All right. Back up. All right. So this was the most intense 3 weeks probably of my political career, because it was such a heavy lift and it was such a big task for us to have. However, I think we came up with something really great for the state. As we talk about this, just remember that this is just the first step. We go back into a fiscal session this spring, and so a lot of things that we want to change, we'll be able to do then. A lot of things that we want to tweak, we'll be able to do then. Things that we want to add, we'll be able to do then as well. So just know that we're not eating the elephant in one bite. This was the beginning of the session and the beginning of this plan. If we can go to the next one. All right, perfect. So I'll talk a little bit about corporate franchise tax. I'm not going to bore you to death with this because you've got it in front of you. The goal really of this administration, and when I talk about the administration, I talk about Governor Jeff Landry's administration, is he wants to see Louisiana grow. We have been at the bottom for far too long. We have a trend of outward migration, and we see it locally, we see it all over the state. We're tired of losing people. We're tired of being behind other states. We're tired of being behind Mississippi and Alabama and Florida and Texas and every other southern state. We're pretty much at the bottom. And so the goal of this is to really bring us to a better place as far as attracting businesses and as far as a business climate. So you're going to hear a lot about cuts for corporate tax and things like that, but that's really to make us even with our fellow states. We didn't just make this up. This didn't just come out of a cloud. We worked with the Tax Institute. We also kind of model a lot of what we did with states that are similar to us. And we hear a lot, we need to be Texas. Well, Louisiana is never going to be Texas. They have a huge property tax. We're a homestead exemption state, which will never change. And I'll talk a little bit about that later, but we were able to protect homestead exemption in the Constitution. However, we did model this after North Carolina. We looked at some other states similar, some states that have really similar populations to us, similar business growth as us, to see what are they doing that we can kind of look at. So the first part of this was the corporate franchise tax, and we are actually repealing the corporate franchise tax. So we're eliminating that, and that's part of this plan. That was something that we wanted to get rid of, and we were able to do that. You guys, I'm sure as you were following, you heard a lot about, there was a lot of incentives and things that we were repealing or we were removing. And there was so much on the books, and there was incentives that weren't used in probably 20 or 30 years. And so rather than us going through and piecemealing it and looking at each and every single incentive and seeing if it was something that we wanted to keep or something that we didn't want to keep, we said we were repealing everything. And so I had a question yesterday about Goodwill, and the resident said, well, I work at Goodwill and we're going to lose a lot of our funding with this. And we realize that there's a lot of those really great incentives and that there's a lot of good programs in the state. And so when we go back in the spring, we're going to look at things like that, and we're going to kind of put that back in there. I'm following off of my own notes, Kim, in case you were a little lost. I saw you kind of question a little bit where we were at with that. So it removes a lot of these incentives from the Constitution and puts them into statute. That way, we have a little bit more control over what we keep and what we don't keep. There were some exceptions, of course, some tax credits that we had to keep. That was part of this package that we wanted to keep. Inventory tax credit, of course, the motion picture tax credit was a big one. We had a big a group of representatives who said we can't move forward on this tax package unless we keep that motion picture tax credit. So that was one in there. Another one that was really important to us in rebuilding our downtowns is the historic tax credit. So we kept some of those in the Constitution as well. And so you're kind of going to see that. Let me just keep up. All right. So the personal income tax, it's HB 10. It should be on that same slide. And I apologize. I'm getting kind of old and I can't quite see as well as I used to, but I can see that's HB 10. Personal income tax, this is like, Oprah saying you get a tax break and you get a tax break and you get a tax break. So everyone gets a tax cut, which HB 10. We had a tiered system. So depending on how much you made, depending on how much taxes you paid. So the highest being at 4.25, and we went ahead and made that a flat 3% for everybody. And the goal with the state and the goal with this governor is that eventually we're going to get to a 0% personal income tax, which is what some of our neighboring parishes have. Some of our neighboring states have. So that would be really wonderful. It's going to take some work to get there, but we're going to continue working to get to that point. And you guys stop me if you have any questions, or stop your chairman if you have any questions. All right. Is sales tax on there? Okay. All right. Perfect. All right. So sales tax was also part of HB 10. So we split HB 10 between the personal income tax and the sales tax, and we put it into one bill. And I'm sure that you've heard a little bit about this one because it's a little controversial as well. We currently have a sales tax of 4.45. It was set to roll off the books this year. And so we actually voted to make the 4.45 permanent. And we also voted to raise it to a flat penny. So it's a flat 5% sales tax. And this is just temporary. It's just for 5 years. So it's going to sunset back to the 4.45 in 2030. But because we made so many cuts as far as personal income tax and the other cuts to businesses, we had to make that up somewhere. So with this, the sales tax and also the sales tax on digital goods, which we're going to get to in a little bit, we're going to be able to fill that hole. And then hopefully sooner than later, so maybe if we can even get to there before the 5 years is up and say, hey, look, what we did and what we put in place is generating so much revenue for the state, we can make some cuts. But this is just kind of a cushion. And it was controversial. It was one of these decisions that a lot of us went home in tears, and we had a really hard time saying, are we raising taxes for the citizens of Louisiana? And it's a very, very small amount. So if you think about it, it's a half of a penny. But it really is the most conservative way to tax the citizens because everyone pays a sales tax. People who come to Louisiana, we just had 1 million people come for Taylor Swift. Those people pay sales tax into the state. We're going to host the Super Bowl this year. Those people pay sales tax. Mardi Gras. So people who maybe don't pay sales tax, or maybe, illegal immigrants, or, just everyone who buys things at stores pay sales tax. So this really is the best way and the fairest way for us to collect taxes from Louisiana. So, once again, it was a difficult decision for us to make. However, hopefully in the next few years, we can kind of roll that back. All right. I think we're going to go to, no, I'm sorry. We're still in the digital tax piece, and that's HB 8. So the state of Louisiana did not have a tax on digital goods, while our neighboring states did have a tax on digital goods. And I like to describe it as, if you go and buy a book at Second and Charles, you pay a sales tax on that book, right? However, if you buy the same exact book on Amazon, you don't pay a state sales tax on that. And so we were leaving a lot of money on the table for things that we could have, collected sales tax on. So that's going to include audio-visual works, audio works, digital books, digital codes, digital applications and games, periodicals. I mean, just think about how many streaming services you have. I know I have about 7 different streaming services at my house, between Hulu and Amazon Prime and Netflix and Disney Plus. And so all of those separate streaming services now are going to have that sales tax on it. So it was estimated by the people who are working on this that it's going to generate about $500 million. However, that seems like a really, really low number, and we're almost thinking that would generate closer to $1 billion for the state general fund, which once again will bring us closer to a 0% personal income tax, and also get us to be able to even out that sales tax a little bit. So this was an easy one for us to do. Yes, it's a new tax. However, it's a tax that other places are collecting, and we, as a state of Louisiana, we're just leaving money on the table. All right, if you guys are okay, I'll keep going. Okay, we're gonna go to
Hang on
this.
just a second.
Yeah.
And if you have a question at any point, just turn your light on and we'll get you right in. Mr. Pledger.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Ms. Domingue, now, I see here where it's HB 10, it said it applies a flat 3% income, or 3% individual income tax rate with increased standard deductions effective January 1st. So is there a max state individual rate that, or a percentage not to exceed?
Yeah, it's 3%. So it was tiered, right? So it was tiered, and so depending on your income, depending on how much you paid, and so now it's a flat 3%. So it was like, some people are getting a huge cut because they were paying 4.45. The other thing is it's doubling the standard deduction, and so your deduction was $6,000 per individual. Now it's $12,000. So once again, it's saving everyone money, and it's giving you more money in your pocket at the end of the year, because the state's collecting less of that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pledger.
Okay. All right. Perfect. All right. So now we're going to get into the really fun, controversial parts of this. Not that all the rest was not controversial. So are we on HB 11? Is that up there? Okay. All right. That's the next part of this. All right. So this is the ad valorem tax part of this, HB 11. And this one was, once again, very difficult lift for us to make. However, my vote is to give you guys the autonomy to make the decision. So what the governor would like to do, and what we would like to do as a legislature, is eliminate collecting inventory tax. So we want to get rid of collecting inventory tax. It's an archaic way to fund government. It's an archaic way to collect taxes. Other states are not collecting this. We continue to collect this tax. And just to exemplify what has happened already, literally as soon as the governor signed the bill, about 48 hours later, Meta made a $10 billion investment in the state of Louisiana in their biggest data center they've ever built in North Louisiana, because that parish made a promise that they're not going to collect the inventory tax. And so I'm going to kind of unpack it as much as I can, and of course, I'm open for questions. So here in Terrebonne Parish, our inventory tax is distributed amongst, the parish, obviously, but also our recreation districts, our 11 recreation districts, all get a piece of that. Our fire districts, our levy district, and our Veterans Board. So everyone gets a little piece of, now it's not their entire budget, I want you guys to remember that, and you can get the correct numbers for how much each one collects. Some of the rec districts, it's as low as $1,000 a year that they end up collecting in this ad valorem tax. However, all of our recreation and fire districts and all those separate districts all collect some of that ad valorem tax. So the goal, of course, is to eliminate that collection of that. The reason I said you guys have buy-in on that is because now that we voted for it, it has to be a decision of the council, it has to be a decision of the school board, and it has to be a decision of the sheriff. And we're going to give you until 2026 to make that decision, actually July 1st, 2026. So it gives you as a council and the administration time to look at everything and say, all right, are we really going to move Louisiana or move Terrebonne Parish forward? And all of us ran for office because we wanted to make a significant change. This is our opportunity to make a significant change. There is going to be a $15 million incentive to the parish if you go ahead and stop collecting that inventory tax. However, if you decide to wait, that gets it cut in half. And so you won't, if you decide, hey, we're not ready, well, that will be cut in half. And so you won't be able to get that $15 million. We also are going to give you about $5 years to really kind of hash it all out and to make those, to kind of figure it out between your administration, your assessor, your sheriff, and all the different entities of how you're going to do it. I know it's a heavy lift and it's going to be a lot of work for you guys. I just want you to know we are here to assist. The governor's office is here to assist in any way possible. Even if there's something extra that we need to do to help, it's just an ask. But we have to be able to work together as far as having this conversation. Now, I know that's a lot, but do you guys have any questions about that part of it?
Ms. Chauvin?
Okay, so you just brought in that there's a $15 million incentive in the first year, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Second year, it gets cut in half. So you have to make that decision first go round.
July 1st, 2026.
July 1st, 2026. Okay, so we got to get a lot of information gathered together to see what works for this parish and that, but the ultimate goal is to not have inventory tax.
And, it does pit the parishes amongst themselves. I mean, I don't know necessarily what Lafourche is doing, but let's just imagine that Lafourche decides to stop collecting inventory tax and Terrebonne says, well, we're going to continue to collect the inventory tax, and Amazon comes in. Well, they're going to build in Lafourche Parish. They're not going to invest where they have to pay that extra inventory tax. So that's just one example of how this can affect the growth of the parish. And I just don't want to see us get in a situation where every parish around us is growing and we're not. And if we want change, this is our opportunity to make it work right. And once again, it's a heavy lift. And look, I'm putting a lot of work on Miss Candace and Mr. Jason, and you guys, of course, y'all are going to have to really be a team because it's you nine's decision whether you're going to continue to collect this or not. And so I just want to make sure that we're making the right decision for us to move forward.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Chauvin. Mr. Champagne?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Jess, for coming present today. quick question. So you kind of hit on it a little bit, but so each parish is going to make this decision individually.
Correct.
And so do you foresee at some point in time that the state's going to come back and say, oh, you're going to have to get rid of it? Like, if lots of parishes decide to keep it because it's detrimental to their budgets?
Well, I can see a scenario, and I'm of course not wanting to speak for anybody, but I can see a scenario where this is something that the governor really, really wants, and he may cut some funding, and that's what happens. I mean, it's Louisiana, right? I mean, that's kind of what the way politics works. So we're giving you a blank slate to figure it out, right? And to make it work. And so, it's just, once again, a very, very heavy lift. And this was a heavy lift for us to make as well. I mean, we did it in 3 weeks, but we also worked 24 hours a day. We didn't stop. It was blood, sweat, and tears, literally, to get this over the finish line. However, now we're putting the ball in your court, but we're giving you a little bit more time to be able to do that. But yeah, so once again, I can't say I don't have a crystal ball of what is or what isn't gonna happen. If it was up to the governor, he probably would have eliminated all of it, but he wanted to give you guys and give the parishes the autonomy, to be able to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Champagne. Mr. Wazan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Jessica, for coming in with your valuable time and taking the time for us. So just so I understand, on this tax we're talking about, getting rid of it. So by 7/1/26, if we have a decision made on what we're gonna do, and let's just say we doing away with it, hypothetically, we're gonna get $15 million one time.
Yes.
One time.
Yes, and whether you use that to make your locals whole, whether you do that, I mean, whatever you end up doing, it's completely up to you. The other part of this, and we haven't got to it yet, is the parish is also going to be collecting a lot more in severance tax as well. So that's going to fill the hole. The new sales tax that the state is going to be collecting, the rest of that 0.45, so the 4.45 the state's going to collect, the rest of it they're going to use to make the locals whole as well. So that, once again, is another conversation for the parish to have with administration and with the state to kind of see how that's going to work as well, as far as filling those gaps and filling those holes.
Yeah, and that was kind of part of my second part of the question was, obviously in the first section you covered, the state made some cuts, but then they subsidized those cuts with other moves they made. And I guess my question was, what has the state considered anything that could subsidize some of the parishes that get on board with this?
Correct, and that's where we're talking about the severance tax and that sales tax piece as well.
And would that be able to fill the gaps with the, fire departments, rec districts?
I don't know exactly what the budget is, because I'm on this side now. I'm not on that side anymore. So I don't know where you guys are financially. So once again, that's a conversation to be had between you guys and administration. And I know we've done in the past, we've done a little task force of a few councilmen with some administration, Mr. Chairman. That might be a great opportunity for you to say, we're going to have, 2 or 3 council people as well as administration to work on this. I would imagine that's how other parishes are doing it as well.
Yeah, I think we got a lot of work to do ahead of this thing to come up with some creative ways to subsidize those losses for these different.
Absolutely, and I think that it's so important that I came to talk to you guys today, because I didn't want this to just, you get this last minute. I wanted you to have the time to be able to process it and to be able to kind of digest it a little bit. And obviously, look, I'm here I can't speak for the rest of our delegation, but I would imagine they would be very open to helping as well. I know the governor's staff is absolutely open to help, and they're willing to help also, to help us kind of get in a better posture to be able to do this. And once again, we all ran for office because we wanted to move Terrebonne forward. We want to move Louisiana into a better direction. This is our opportunity to be able to do that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Wazam. Mr. Babin?
Yeah, this is going to have to be a collaborative effort between administration and this council, simply because, I mean, I've seen some of the numbers. One of my rec districts is going to lose $300,000. A recreation district's going to lose $150,000. We're going to get 15,000. If our administration just decides
15
to
million.
keep that, 15 million,
Yeah.
excuse me. If our administration just decides to keep that, then we bankrupt a fire department and a recreation department, and we have to suck it up down the line. So we have a lot of T's to cross and I's to dot before we get to that particular point, whether we're going to decide to opt in or opt out of it. I mean, either way, but it's a lot of numbers that is going to that'll have to come across this group of people in conjunction with the administration. So it's there. So we have it now. It's the ball's in our court. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Babin. Mr. Bergeron?
Yeah, just to give you guys some numbers, you're looking at $10.8 million in inventory according to 2023. And what's interesting with the severance adjustments, you're looking at Terrebonne Parish with a net effect of $13 million. The problem is that's in sales tax, not in ad valorem. So there has to be some kind of transition from entities that are receiving an ad valorem to receive that from a sales tax perspective. So when you look at the 15 million, you're basically talking about a year and a third to cover for ad valorem with that $15 million payout. And then from there, what adjustments are made with the severance, with the net $13 million net effect. So all stuff we're already looking at and having conversations on, and we'll come together and work on this.
Thank you, Mr. Bergeron. Mr. Harding?
Yes, and that's the avenue, Mr. Bergeron, that I was actually at. Jess, I was getting some numbers down, and in reference to the ad valorem, being able to compare what we were collecting, how much we're going to lose. Like Mr. Babin said, some recreation districts are going to be affected. They were affected pretty harshly, but that goes in, and the information. As information, given an opportunity to information, she made mention of us working together. And the comparison between someone going to Lafourche Parish to Terrebonne Parish, the other aspects going forward besides this is the fact, the other problem that we have here is FEMA 2.0. So we have to take in consideration all of this, and that's a complete package that has to go back up there along with our decisions, why we are losing revenue and why we're losing people.
So I do have, I'm sure everybody's kind of heard, and this would be fabulous. So there's a certain congressman who's no longer a congressman who may very well be stepping into a FEMA administrative position, which would be fabulous because once again, FEMA 2.0 is not a state. It's a federal. The only person that has any control over that really and truly is the President of the United States. We have a really strong Louisiana delegation federally, and so we've got some people that can get the president's ears now and can say, you know what, it's a sham. We all know it's a sham. They need to rip those maps up and approve the maps that we approved. That they rejected. And so I'm hopeful and I'm optimistic with the team that's put in place that will happen. And so hopefully, we're at a point where that finally can happen. And believe us, we have been beating that drum incessantly. There is talks, of course, of an insurance special session coming up here in the spring after the holidays. If the governor calls us, I'm there. But yes, I completely agree that that's part of it as well.
Yeah, and that's it. It's just the fact that information, allotted time, working together, council, administration, and with you guys that are in Baton Rouge. And that's the most important thing. We can't work against each other. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harding. Mr. Pleasure.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Ms. Domingue, I think it should be noted as well. I mean, we all agree from administration, Mr. Babin, a few other folks have mentioned that it's a collaborative effort where everybody needs to be involved. But I'm going to be, from a budgetary standpoint, I know we're going to take a hit in a sense if we want to just be blunt with that. But at the same time, I think we should include or incorporate us as council people, incorporate our local businesses that are paying these taxes, so they can get an idea of what could happen and how they can benefit from that and how they can also help us too as well, and trying to keep folks here as
Right,
well.
and I appreciate that, and that's the beauty of the legislative process, right? And that's the beauty of you guys having a great relationship with us, is you come to us in a few months and say, all right, Jess, this is the hit we're gonna take. We're gonna need a little bit extra help to be able to get through this. And then we can then present it to the governor's staff and say, or the governor as well, and say, look, this is where we are. We are going to need this much more support to be able to get us out of this hole. If this is something he wants, then they should help us, right? I mean, that's where we need to be. But once again, we've said collaboration so many times here. We've got to work together to be able to get here. It's not going to happen overnight. I appreciate the parish president working on this, but you guys need to be working on this as well with the parish president to be able to bring something back to us. Once again, collaboration is the most important, because we've got a great relationship with the administration in Baton Rouge, and they really want to see Terrebonne Parish succeed, and they want to get us to a good spot. So we've got a great delegation. We're very strong in Baton Rouge. It's a good time for Terrebonne Parish right now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pleasure. That's all for questions on that one.
Thank you. And I won't take too much more of your time. All right, next is the constitutional amendment. All these things that we talked about are going to be part of a constitutional amendment. Some of them will, some of them won't. The piece that we just talked about, the inventory tax, will be part of that constitutional amendment. Also, there are some government efficiencies that are part of this constitutional amendment. We're going to eliminate the growth of government. A lot of people said, you guys are doing tax reform. Why aren't we stopping the growth of government? Well, this was put in the constitutional amendment, which of course has to be voted on by a majority of the people in the state of Louisiana. We're also going to modify the budget stabilization fund. This was a fund that was created past legislature, kind of sort of a rainy day fund for the state. It ballooned so quickly and got so big now that you've got all this money sitting in general fund that the state can't tap into. So part of the constitutional amendment is being able to do that as well. Also, the teacher pay raise, I know you guys had heard about that. That's part of the constitutional amendment. And I think there's a slide on the teacher pay raise, but we were able to do that because we're paying off the retirement debt. So the state is going to pay that debt and then allow each school board to give their teachers a $2,000 pay raise, and then all their ancillary staff a $1,000 pay raise. But that's part of this amendment, and so it's really, really important that we get the amendment passed. There's going to be a huge media blitz on this because this is the biggest part of the governor's package. That's going to be in March, and so possibly we'll be back at that point to remind you guys how important it is to pass the amendment. And you're going to hear a lot about that as well. All right, we can go to the next one. All right. Okay, so this is that severance tax piece, and this is talking about those mineral rights. Current law provides for state severance tax on natural resources severed from the soil or water. Current law establishes various severance tax exemptions, including one for production of oil and gas from horizontally drilled wells, commonly known as horizontal well exemption. HB 25 retains current law and adds new regulatory requirements, including new documentation requirements pertaining to the horizontal well exemptions. HB 25 in its final form does not change any of the severance tax. I had talked a little bit too earlier about homestead exemption. That was part of this as well, that we kept homestead exemption locked in the Constitution. There was some talk about changing homestead exemption, and none of us were really a fan of that at all. So part of those negotiations that we kept the homestead exemption in there. So because that's kept in, we have to adjust a few other things in the state. All right. You can go to the next one. Legislative continuance. This is going to be part of that ballot initiative. This has nothing to do with the budget at all. This just says that a lot of my colleagues are lawyers, and so there was a law saying that if they're currently on a case or on a trial, that they weren't able to continue that if they went into the legislature or they had to go into session. So this just says that lawyers are able to continue to do their work when they're in session. So that's all that is. And then the next slide is just on constitutional amendments. The first one's on December 7th, all passed, and then the rest are going to be those March constitutional amendments. And I think that might be it. All right, that is it. I know that was a lot. This was tax reform in 15 minutes. And I know it was a lot of information for you guys to digest. I just want you to know you all have my cell phone number. I am willing to meet with you guys anytime to discuss any of these things, and just know that we're here to support in any way. And thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you, Rep. Doming, and thank you especially for coming and getting the conversation started. I know a lot of us individually have been following it and looking at what's going to take place, and now we know the deadline has been set on the inventory tax. We'll wait to see what the constitutional amendments do, but it's time to get to work for the betterment of our parish. So for you and the delegation, thank you all for looking out for us as you always do.
Thank you so much, and I so much appreciate being here in front of you guys. And Miss Malden, I'm so sorry.
All right. Item 2 is public wishing to address the council in accordance with Section 2-07E of the Terrebonne Parish Home Rule Charter. The public will be heard and can speak for 3 minutes on any matter related to parish government without discussion or questions and answers on non-agenda items. We have no speaker cards. Item 3 is committee reports. Public Services Committee, Mr. Babin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I make a motion that the council accept and ratify the minutes of the Public Service Committee meeting held on Monday, December 16th, 2024, and I have no public hearings.
Second. So we have a motion by Mr. Babin, second by Mr. Champagne. Members, vote your machines. 9 yeas, 0 nays. Motion carries. Item B, Community Development and Planning Committee. Ms. Chauvin.
Make a motion that the council accept and ratify the minutes of the Community Development and Planning Committee held on December 16th, 2024, and I have no public hearings.
We have a motion by Ms. Chauvin, second by Mr. Trosclair. Members, vote your machines. 9 yeas, 0 nays. Motion passes. 4A, approve streetlights installations and removals and/or activations. As per Mr. Pledger, did I hear a second, Mr. Babin? And for a question, Ms. Chauvin.
I do have a question for this because with one of the lighting parts in my district, we were missing like 30-something lights. Do I have to bring it before the council to get those lights back? Because it was from like Boudreaux Canal all the way down to Cocodrie, so I have a number of them missing per their own app. And she did tell me that I could get them, but my issue is I don't know if I have to bring that here because they're not addresses.
So they were on poles before.
They were on poles before.
And they're not. And you're
they're not.
speaking with Entergy?
Yes. So I'm wondering, do I have to come back before the council, and how do I do that without addresses?
So.
Because it's on the side of the marsh.
Right.
You understand? And so on that side of the marsh, there are many, many places that do not have addresses. And so I'm kind of lost. As
Alright.
to what I'm, no, I
So I
already
see
tried
people
that. They didn't-
turning on lights. You have experience with that? You're giving an answer, or you have questions on that?
Mine was, I thought each light had
All right,
Yeah, no.
we're gonna run through the lights. So Mr. Babin first?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Each one of the poles, whatever energy company has it, Entergy in your particular, has, that pole is designated a number, okay? And I mean, you might even have to go by a GPS coordinate to get it.
GIS.
But I mean, if the lights were there before, what you need to really check into, if we getting charged for those lights
Right.
not being there, because the road lighting district is getting charged for that, okay? If
Correct.
it's not there anymore. So,
No,
but
this is real. This is per their own app.
and I understand that, but what I'm saying is Entergy has a designation for every pole they have in this
Okay,
parish.
but then there were poles that, now do remember this is after Ida, so those poles were absolutely torn out. And now they're put in different places.
So the poles were
So,
replaced. They're
so
not in
do
the
you
same
understand, like,
spots.
Yeah.
I don't understand what
So
I'm
the-
supposed to do to bring it here. Okay, sorry,
Mr.
Bob.
Pleasure?
They do have their own designation, but first and foremost, I think we should reach out to Energy and see if they had a plan that they haven't completed, or see where they're at first with that. And that should answer our question in regards to if there's a run of 20 lights, they're not there anymore, or they've been moved. I'm sure they had some sort of IDA recovery plan. I don't know if they've gotten to it yet, but that might be a conversation we want to bring up, because it's a valid point that if we're being charged, that we can find that out too at that time.
So just note that I did speak with her, and then her answer to me was to bring it here, but my question still remains, like, how do you do that without an address? And so, and maybe it's just something that I'm just trying to, I'm trying to figure it out, because I would like to get those people lighting. It's dark down there.
All right.
And that's.
I would ask her if they have a
All right.
plan.
Rather than carry this on, because it's really not germane to the item, because we're just talking about the installations right now, but to wrap this up, Mr. Babin's correct too, in that you need to see if we're being charged for them, because that's something you're gonna wanna rebate on. So we have an item before us, motion and a second, so members vote your machines. 9 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries. After the meeting, y'all can pick that conversation up. Number 5, appointments to various boards, committees, and commissions. A, Veterans Memorial District Board, 2 vacancies due to resignations, 1 representing the parish president south of the Intracoastal, and 1 representing Russell Redmond, American Legion Post 272. Mr. Jimmy Dean Truitt, representing Russell Redmond, American Legion Post 272, submits application and resume for consideration. I have a motion by Mr. Babin to open, close, and appoint Mr. Truitt and hold the other over. Who? I heard Steve. We'll go with Steve. Mr. Schroesclair seconds the motion. Members, vote your machines. 9 yeas, 0 nays. Mr. Truitt, congratulations. Item B, Homa Public Trust, 2 expiring terms on 12/26/24. Mr. John Abear expresses his interest in being reappointed. We have a motion by Mr. Champagne to open, close, and reappoint Mr. Abear, seconded by Mr. Harding. Members, vote your machines. 9 yeas, 0 nays. Congratulations to Mr. Abear. You know, Mr. Trosclair, we have another important person in this audience tonight, being your wife, Ms. Deborah. And I made a deal with her that I was going to try and get y'all out early so y'all can go have dinner. So I hear you. And of course, we also have Robbie the Elf, who's been running around the parish doing things, and I'm glad that he came to the council meeting and suffered with us. Item C, Recreation District Number 7 Board, 1 expiring term on 1/9/25. Mr. Brian LeBlanc expresses his interest in being reappointed. So I have an open, close, and reappoint by Ms. Chauvin, second by Mr. Harding. Members, vote your machines. 9 yeas, 0 nays. Congratulations to Mr. LeBlanc being reappointed. Item D, Bayou Cane Fire Protection District Board, 3 expiring terms on 1/1/25. Mr. Timothy Rhodes expresses his interest in being reappointed. Mr. Travis Guava expresses his interest in being reappointed.
Open close and appoint Mr. Rhodes, reappoint, Mr. Rhodes, Mr.
Gravois.
and Ms. Carlos.
I don't have 3. We had 3?
Yes, updated.
All right, so we have a motion by Mr. Harding to open, close, and reappoint Ms. Carlos, Mr. Guava, and Mr. Rhodes. Did someone second that? Second, Mr. Trosclair. Members, vote your machines. Yes. I may have grabbed the wrong page. 9 yeas, 0 nays. Keep that to write your notes. It was buried in my stuff. Yeah, this is the one I remember seeing. All right. Item E, Bayou Blue Fire Protection District Board, 2 expiring terms on 1/1/25. Mr. Andrew Blanchard expresses his interest in being reappointed. Motion by Mr. Trosclair to open, close, and appoint Mr. Blanchard, hold the other over. Second by Mr. Harding. Members, vote your machines. 9 yeas, 0 nays. Congratulations to Mr. Blanchard. Item F, Schriever Fire Protection District Board, 3 expiring terms on 1/1/25. Mr. Sean Mesh submits application for consideration. We have a motion to open, close, and appoint and hold the others over by Ms. Chauvin. Second, Mr. Hamner. Members, vote your machines. Everyone voted? Nine yeas, motion carries. Congratulations to Mr. Mesh. Item G, Fire District Number 4 Board, 2 expiring terms on 1/1/25. Mr. Marty Terrio expresses his interest in being reappointed. Mr. Roland Oquan expresses his interest in being reappointed. We have a motion by Mr. Babin to reappoint. Second by Mr. Harding. Members, vote your machines. Nine yeas, 0 nays. Congratulations. Item H, Fire District Number 7 Board, 2 expiring terms on 1/1/25. Mr. Jude Landry expresses his interest in being reappointed. Mr. Barry Chauvin expresses his interest in being reappointed. Motion to open, close, and reappoint by Ms. Chauvin, seconded by Mr. Trosclair. Members, vote your machines. 9 yeas, 0 nays. Congratulations to Mr. Landry and Mr. Chauvin. Item I, Fire District Number 8 Board, 2 expiring terms on 1/1/25. Mr. Patrick Bourgeois expresses his interest in being reappointed. Mr. Roosevelt Seymour expresses his interest in being reappointed.
Open close and reappoint Mr. Bourgeois and,
We have a motion by Mr. Harding to open, close, and reappoint Mr. Bourgeois and Mr. Roosevelt Seymour, seconded by Mr. Pledger. Members, vote your machines. 9 yeas, 0 nays. Congratulations to Mr. Bourgeois and Mr. Seymour. Item J, Fire District Number 10 Board, 2 expiring terms on 1/1/25. Mr. Jimmy Verrett Jr. expresses his interest in being reappointed. Mr. Carroll Abear expresses his interest in being reappointed. We have a motion by Mr. Babin to reappoint Mr. Verrett and Mr. Abear, seconded by Mr. Harding. Members, vote your machine. 9 yeas, 0 nays. Congratulations, Mr. Abear and Mr. Verrett. Item K, Fire District Number 9 Board, 2 expiring terms on 1/1/25. Mr. Charles Dusenberry expresses his interest in being reappointed. Mr. Terry Bro expresses his interest in being reappointed. We have a motion by Mr. Babin to open, close, and appoint Mr. Bro and Mr. Dusenberry. Second by Mr. Trosclair. Members, vote your machines. 9 yeas, 0 nays. Congratulations to Mr. Bro and Mr. Dusenberry. Item 6, monthly engineering reports. As per Mr. Babin, second Mr. Harding. Members, vote your machines. Nine yeas, zero nays. Item 7, council members request discussion of item A, updated status from administration regarding the professional services with all lobbyists and/or consultants. Mr. Bergeron.
Yeah, so we have basically 3 lobbyists, 2 at the state level, 1 at the federal level. Van Ness is able to join us tonight, our state lobbyist, which contract's not up till March. Wasn't able to make it tonight, and it's talking about coming the first meeting in January to present. So I figured I'd let the lobbyists let you guys know what they've been working on and what stuff they've had done, and go from there.
Yeah, so thank you, President Bergeron. Thank you all for entrusting our firm, Van Ness Feldman, based out of DC, with the parish's federal affairs. And we've been representing you guys for the past few years, and we want to thank you as well, President Bergeron, for keeping us on. So I work out of the New Orleans office. My name's Kia Sherman, and my colleague Tanner Johnson is here. He works out of our Baton Rouge office. So I joined the firm in August of 2023, and since that time, I've been working on all the parish's issues. My first task was to review your FEMA public assistance claim for the temporary generators, which had been denied, sadly. And so I spent over the last year working on that. We engaged the leadership of FEMA Region 6 to help us sort of bring in the right folks, get the right people to hear the right information. And so that's pretty much been what I worked on over the last year with Congressman Scalise's office. You know, Representative Domingue was correct. We have a really, really strong congressional delegation. So part of the reason we've been so successful over the last year is because of them. And so I'd like to thank them as well for the work that they've done on behalf of the parish. But I would very happy to say that the claim for public assistance, it was roughly 13.3 million, was reversed, and you guys will be receiving reimbursement for that claim for those generators. So that was a big win this year. Also, a second ago, we were asked to get Terrebonne Parish included in the Delta Regional Authority's jurisdiction so that you could seek federal funding for infrastructure and economic development projects. And so very excited to report that it just was included in the Water Resources Development Act, and you guys will be able to seek grants for roughly $100,000 to about $2 million. So that will be really great. For whatever reason, Terrebonne and a few parishes were left out of the original legislation. So big win, and I wanted to thank our congressional delegation for assisting with that as well. And then we have helped with, I know earmarks always sound like a not so great word, a little dirty word in the past, but all of our congressional members are in favor of them now, and so we help prepare your applications for 2 different projects. One was an EOC expansion for your Emergency Operations Center, which I believe the gentleman from the Heart Association said was a really, really strong place for you guys to do a lot of your hurricane recovery. So we'll be adding some conference rooms, a respite space, and some additional area to that. Congressman Scalise was instrumental. We have about $975,000 that was included in the Homeland Security's committee report. So as soon as the full appropriations bill is considered in March, that should be included in there. We also, Congressman Graves has an earmark as well, and it's going to GOSEP, but it'll be split between 3 parishes, and it's $3 million, and one of us being our parish for that EOC expansion project. So if both of those make it through, you're looking at roughly $2 million. We asked for 1.3, so I know they'll be able to find some other ways to do some much-needed work around there. And then also, we do your advocacy, obviously. President Bergeron and I traveled to D.C., I believe in June or July. Let me see, I have the paper right here. And we just met with all of our congressional members, and we relayed the new administration's priorities, and we kind of set the stage for a lot of these projects that we were going to be following up with our members on this year. And so we'll be doing that again at some point, probably in the spring, so that we can sort of socialize whatever projects we'll be looking for earmarks on this coming fiscal year. And then last, we monitor federal funding, and so we look at what projects you guys need funding for, and then we look for grants potentially. And so we know that you're working on a derelict vessel removal project. I mean, you have, I can't remember the number, it's been a minute since I looked at it, but is, how many? I was about to say 300. Well, I'm glad you corrected me. It's crazy. I can't even imagine. So it's going to be a big project. And so we found one grant from NOAA, it's U.S. Boats Foundation, that I helped prepare an application along with the consultants, the engineering consultants, and a letter of intent. We were invited to do a full application. And so we just worked on that. And then I found a project partner for us to work with to help strengthen our application. So I think we're working with BETNEP on that. And so that's just been recently submitted, so fingers crossed on it. And we look forward to supporting the parish this upcoming year in whatever way we can and learning about the priorities for FY '25. So
All right. Anyone have any questions?
thank you. I
Any
appreciate it.
questions? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, item B, discussion and possible action in dealing with the quality of food being served to the elderly at the Chauvin Senior Center. Ms. Chauvin?
Okay. So I met with Council on Aging, Ms. Jane Walker yesterday, and one of their, I guess the chairman of their board. And I brought before them some of the things that were going on in the Chauvin part of it, and that people had come to me before, right before I was elected, right when I was elected, and, you know, we've been asked to wait a minute to kind of let them figure out what they can do or what have you. And in talking with Miss Jane yesterday, there are some things that I think that we need to look at doing. It's not, it's just the food quality that we're having issues with. And I have the elderly coming back and forth to me to tell me that, you know, what's kind of being brought before them is not acceptable. And I went there one day, and the food that I seen that day, and it's not every day, it's just some of the days that it's happening. So I just talked with Miss Jane, and one of the things that maybe we can look at is putting forth an evaluation process of the menu each day, so that we can see what's working and what's not, and bring it back to her nutritionist. And I know that we share the nutritionist with Lafourche Parish. So we were able to work out some of the issues that we're having, and we're kind of at the mercy of Lafourche Parish, because Second Harvest, I think, is not ready, and nor is the sheriff. So our sheriff, ready to delve into that. And I think until then, we're kind of at those mercies. But it's really disheartening for some of the things that are taking place in the menu for some of these people. And I want it to be brought before, because I know a lot of the elderly are coming to me, and they're wanting to see some change. And I did go over there and let them know that we had met, and that we had come to a few things that we can work on to better the situation on that part. So I'm going to leave it at that, because I know Miss Deborah deserves to eat out tonight. All
right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Chauvin. Item C, updated status regarding CDBG DR application. Mr. Harding?
Yes, this is something I've been following for some time, and then I think we spoke about it several times in reference to the money, how much money we were receiving, and the projection of $117 million may have changed because of this particular piece of information I actually got. Really, I need a simple version of what is actually here. We hear numbers, and generally, I don't want people, not just up here, but then people in the public, to think that we're getting $117 million. So that's not necessary. So when we had the projects that we were actually, I think we sent something let me get this here. If you recall this, when we have five things that were denied, and then we have 7 things that was approved. Okay, so out of the projection of what we anticipated with the original application and what has changed, we just want to know what was accepted, what each project would get, and what are our expectations in the future to what we can do in reference to when you have to resubmit an application to some aspects at the front of this particular. It says the following applications were not submitted because of the reasons provided below. So that was 5 things right there. You have that in the letter? Yeah.
So-
Mr. Bergeron?
Nothing's been denied. Whenever you look at, for example, we requested 3 extensions, and some of those are related to the fact that we didn't have final approval on grants that would connect with those. And then with those, some things ended up not qualifying, so the consultant said, you gotta take this and do that there. And a good example is with the jail and the trash transfer station. We moved the money from the land, the land is 2 pieces of land, or 1 piece of land, but 2 transactions. So we said we had to move that money to the trash transfer station to be able to get the land the first shot. So as far as, nothing has been denied. We received approval of 6 applications. We're being told by the end of the year, we should have approval on everything else. And so that's kind of where we're at a hoping point with them to get the rest of the approvals, minus the 3 that are extended through the reasons that we're having those conversations.
Okay, and how much are we gonna be receiving? Can we start receiving some money?
So we don't receive any money. Everything here, and it's gonna be 117 million, but everything has to be spent by us and then reimbursed. So they're not cutting us checks, they're not doing any of that stuff. We're gonna have to do something, spend money, and Candace probably spend it a little bit better, and they approve it, and then they reimburse us for every bit of the $117 million.
Ms. Malden?
Yes, sir. So we do get reimbursed. We cannot start spending any dollar amount. We cannot do any activity on any of these projects until we get the approval from the state. Once we get the approval of the application for the state, we can start the environmental review process. And that's going to take a time period depending on what area of the parish it's in. Is it a floodplain? Is it not? And so forth. Once we get the environmental review process complete, we can then start any type of procurement that we need and all of that. So we can't do anything until we have those approvals. So those 6 that we have approvals on, we are currently working on that environmental review. And then we'll go into the RFQ process and all with that there. But we will get reimbursed. We are getting $117 million. There is a percentage of that $117 million that will go towards planning and consultants and stuff, but the project should be, roughly about 112 to 115 million of that 117.
Yeah, and that's this was really confusing, and it simplified it a little bit, and I guess I was asking for an extension because we were constantly about submitting the application by November 30th or something like that. So we are allotted an opportunity, even like the museum. Originally, I think there's more information I got there because the possibility of $1 million compared to $3 million in reference to that. I know that was a certain amount of money in reference to the shrimping industry. All those other things, the seafood industry, it moved from phase 1 to phase 3, and that was another thing that I was.
So the support the seafood applications did turn into 3. We have 1 phase that is the grants directly to the fishermen. The second one is a study to help us to determine what infrastructure is needed. Is it cold storage? Is it, storing it, supplying it, shipping it, whatever the infrastructure is needed. So the third phase is to implement that study and that infrastructure, but we don't know what it is yet. So we couldn't put in that application until we know what it is. But it's set aside, the state has approved, the state is actually the one that recommended doing it that way for that particular application, to break it into those 3 phases, so that way we can identify the infrastructure and then apply it for that particular infrastructure and not go through some of the confusion and problems that we have when we don't have something exactly identified.
Well, with the exception of Mr. Trustclair, you know, man, anyone else that have a question, because I know it's when you.
Well, and I want to address the 3 million versus 1 million, and I've been hearing this. Our consultants gave us advice in October or November of last year. I understand it was sent to all the council members, that they were concerned anything over $1 million for the Fine and Roots Museum would be flagged and denied. You know, it has to have a resiliency and an economic development and related to low modern income. So the conversation has been since before I got here, as I understand it, that you go for the million. There's a possibility that there's going to be some funding left over from housing not used with OCD, and that we might get more funding after the fact, you know, later on. They don't have a time frame. We don't know what that looks like, and that we would have an opportunity to maybe take some of that funding and come back to some of these projects. Even the community centers or whatever, any other things with the, you know, anything we do a study on, like wastewater and stormwater and all that, that we might have that opportunity to come back with additional funding. So I've heard this 3 million, I've heard a $3.9 million number. Every document I've ever seen and everything anybody's been able to show me is $1 million since 2023. So just want to make sure we're all on the same page there.
Yeah, I'm with you. I've sort of heard different figures too. So therefore, once we're here, we know what we're dealing with. I generally try not to go on the assumption, you know what I mean, until I've actually seen something. Then I ask the question. And then once that question is answered and the numbers are placed there, then we know what we're dealing with. Thank you.
All right, that's all you got, Mr. Harding. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. President, Ms. Malden. Moving on to item 8, vacancies to various boards, committees, and commissions. A, Recreation District Number 2-3 Board, 1 expired term. Fire District Number 5 Board, 1 expiring term on 1/1/25. Fire District Number 6 Board, 3 expiring terms on 1/1/25. Fire District Number 9 Board, 2 expiring terms on 1/1/25. Village East Fire Protection Board, 1 expiring term on 1/1/25. Coteau Fire Protection District Board, 2 expiring terms on 1/1/25 and 1 expired term. Schriever Fire Protection District Board, 2 expiring terms on 1/1/25. Bayou Blue Fire Protection District Board, 1 expiring term on 1/1/25. Children and Youth Services Board, 2 expiring terms, 1 representing a faith-based organization and 1 representing Bayou Area Children Foundation. Downtown Development Corporation, 5 expired terms, each representing the following entities: 2 representing the council, 1 representing the Chamber of Commerce, 1 representing the Historical Society, and 1 representing Downtown Merchants. Municipal Civil Service Board, 1 expiring term representing the council nominated by Nicholls State University, 1 vacancy due to resignation representing the council nominated by Nicholls State University. Terrebonne Parish Tree Board, 1 expired term and 1 vacancy due to a resignation. Veterans Memorial District Board, 1 vacancy due to a resignation representing the parish president south of the Intracoastal. Board of Adjustments, 1 expired term. 9/11 Communications District, the 911 Communications District, 1 expiring term on 12/31/24. Home Housing Authority, 1 expiring term on 1/1/28. Parish President appointment. I think that was probably 25. Home and Public Trust, 1 expiring term on 12/26/24. Announcements, Mr. Parish President.
Just want to wish everybody a blessed and Merry Christmas, and that everybody gets to spend time with their family and their friends and their loved ones, and that everybody is safe. Thank you.
Thank you,
We'll
sir.
take a
Ms.
picture
Sherlin,
after.
for council.
Yes. Oh, thank you. I just want to tell everybody to go check out the South Regional Library with their new scavenger hunt that is put out every Monday, and they also have a flyer on story time. They have a New Year's Eve bash that will be held on December 31st at 11 a.m. to noon at the South Regional Library at 4377 Bayou Side Drive. So bring your kiddos. It will be from 11 a.m. to noon. We also have where Santa's coming with goodies to Montague and Chauvin. Montague will be December 21st, starting at 9 a.m., and Chauvin December 22nd, starting at 9 a.m. You can keep up with my page as I'm going to be the Santa spotter and updating the page every 15 minutes so that the kids do this. This is put on by Mr. Leroy Baudouin, so this really has nothing to do with me. I just engage with him and helping him to put this out there. And all his sponsors and donations that he's received to do that. And just for clarification, I said festive, Mr. Parish President, not ugly sweater day. I'm just messing with you. Thanks for joining in. I appreciate it. And Miss Connie out there, so thank you.
And Councilman Harding. Mr. Pleasure.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I also just want to add some of the festivities and things that are going on. First, to let everybody know to have a safe Merry Christmas, but also come out to Mechanicville. I got the 4th annual parade that's going to be out there. Those guys in their dune buggies, they're going to have Santa Claus, they're going to have four-wheelers, they're going to have floats. They're going to have a bunch of people out there having a good time. So come out to Mechanicville. That's Sunday, 2 p.m. It's going to start on East Street, and it's going to go down to the Mechanicville gym where they'll have all kinds of things out there for the kids to have fun. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pleasure. And just a reminder for everyone, check on your neighbors as we have these little cold spells, especially your elderly neighbors, and make sure that they're taken care of. Sometimes people just don't have that sense of asking for help, but if you go out there and you look and you see it, do something about it. Mr. Hamner?
Do you think me? No, I just want to, everybody talked about their ugly sweater, but, the little elf on the shelf, Mr. Robbie Lee, please stand up and stand up.
Thank you, Mr. Hamner.
That is the best. That is the best.
Motion adjourned, Mr. Trostler, second, Mr. Harding. Members, vote your machines. Ms. Champagne, you want to say something?